Let's get cracking!
Hello everybody and welcome to another Join Dota presentation where we have the next day of the Dota 2 Champions League, and what a day it's going to be. We have Alliance facing up against Sigma. This is a matchup, pretty much one of the matches that I'm most excited about. I think this is going to be one hell of a series, and I'm very, very excited to get into it, and we are already underway in the draft, so I can go ahead and welcome in my, my caster for the day who's going to be joining me. It's going to be my play-by-play man. Ayesee is going to be lending his golden voice to this duo.
Well, it's great to be back, man. Really looking forward to this series. And thanks again, of course, to you, Join Dota, and the D2CL for having me back. And looks like you and I will be collaborating quite a bit across the next couple of weeks. But, you know, and how can you not be excited whenever you have matches like this to look forward to? It's tough to not get the juices flowing. Think about this match that intrigues me, though, is this is Alliance's first appearance in competitive play in quite a while, really. I mean, whenever you look at the last time, if I'm not mistaken, their last showing was about midway towards the tail end of January. So they've been on a bit of a break. They're going to be looking to come back and get things back in full swing. Sigma, though, they've been very active so far throughout February, but they've only managed to win one series out of 7 throughout the last couple of weeks as well. So they're struggling. They're on a bit of a downslope, and Alliance just looking to get the train rolling again. We know these two team styles, and we know all of the names on both sides, really a star-studded lineup on each side. And looking at the early draft with the Shadow Demon Mirana, Sigma, of course, going to be looking to synergize Disruption with the Sacred Arrow. Always a lot of options in terms of how you want to build a lineup. Just having that kind of offensive potential, huge in its own right, while Alliance prioritizes the Bane with the first pick, and, of course, they land Ake, his Chen.
Yeah, I was about to say, what is really something to me that really struck is the fact that Sigma have been really on a downturn lately. They have been really struggling against a lot of teams. They faced up against Empire multiple times and Na'Vi once or twice, and they just really have not been looking as good as really about a month, 2 months ago, where they were just kind of on a tear. I think it was ever since pretty much Star Ladder. They've been on this kind of slump. So, and like you said earlier, Alliance haven't even played since Star Ladder. So this is going to be both teams kind of trying to prove themselves. Alliance getting back into the game here, into the competitive scene, saying, hey, you know, we may have lost Star Ladder, but we're still absolutely relevant. And Sigma trying to prove by taking down one of the big top dogs, showing that, you know, despite the rough little past couple of weeks, they're still a team to be contended with. I think we're absolutely going to go to a Game 3 here. I have no doubt in my mind that this series is going to be very, very close matchup.
Yeah, especially if we take yesterday as any indication. I mean, let's be honest, virtus.pro came in tremendous underdogs yesterday, and they stretched that series to 3 games with a very surprising Game 1 win. And really, I mean, this is what you expect whenever you're talking, you know, these major leagues, be it the D2L, the D2CL, et cetera, et cetera. These teams, yes, they're group stages. Yes, they have some room to breathe. It's not going to be like, oh, you lose once, you go to lower bracket and face elimination, especially when you're this early on. But really, the early parts of the group stage are where you get some of the best series because every team wants to get off to a good start. They don't want to be fighting uphill and trying to dig themselves out of a hole right from the beginning. So we can see the bans have proceeded, and, you know, so, you know, one thing I love in the current state of Dota is so many of the bans, yes, you have heroes like Invoker, but even he slipped all the way to the second ban phase here. But team to team and situation to situation, game to game, it's becoming very clear that outside of maybe 1 or 2 heroes, Visage still very highly prioritized, so much of the pick ban phase now is based on just scouting reports on the enemy team and what your preferences are and what your particular hates are. And I think we see that already. I mean, having the Chen come out early for Alliance is no surprise. Seeing an early pick Bane, I mean, that's just something, yeah, you'll see him picked very often, but you don't see him come out this early, whereas Sigma, and we talked briefly about this regarding Shadow Demon yesterday, a hero that was a tier 1 hero for a long stretch throughout last year, kind of fell off and now making a big comeback. And Sigma now with another single target disable in the Beastmaster, good initiation, and still a lot of flexibility in how they want to run this laning phase. Really enjoying their draft so far. Alliance, a little bit more to the standard, but I'm sure they'll shake things up coming up here in the second pick phase.
Yeah, I think there have been basically 2 different things that have made Shadow Demon a lot more viable in this in this meta, especially being picked up this early, is the fact that, one, the rise of Mirana, right, and being able to have that kind of combo hero. Shadow Demon is arguably the strongest hero for that. Not necessarily the easiest connection. Bane, obviously, with his sleep, makes it a much easier arrow combo, but Shadow Demon gives you the best rewards for it, and that is with that Soul Catcher. The buff to the arrow coming out from Mirana pretty much synergizes so well. It's just an amazing amount of burst damage if you do land that Disruption Soul Catcher arrow combo, that it's absolutely insane. You're talking about an extra 150 damage at level 7 if you get a maxed out arrow that wasn't there before, and that's very, very big when you're adding that much into a new combo like that. That's a significant amount. So that's one of the big things. And the other thing is a little interesting, though. It's the recent buff to Shadow Poison, where teams are actually, despite the fact that he was never really considered for his Shadow Poison, it was mainly for Disruption and Soul Catcher. Those were his big things. Purge, obviously, very important as well. But Shadow Poison was always kind of like the after effect. It was like, yeah, I guess you could throw some poison around, but we're not really relying on it. Here now, teams are actually prioritizing that by only going, a lot of teams are going for a 1-1-4 build because they think that extra bit of damage, that extra tick is huge amount of extra damage for a Shadow Demon. The question is, can you really pull it off?
Yeah, and we saw that even before the buff, and you're very, very astute to point that out now, is whenever you looked at statistics leading up to TI3, you saw that Shadow Demon actually had, I want to say he was first or very, very close, like second or something. I want to say he was actually first, though, in terms of First Bloods. Like, of all the heroes that were played leading up, I want to say throughout the preliminaries of TI3, of all the heroes that were selected, he had the highest rates of First Blood, and Shadow Poison has a lot to do with that, even just 1 point into it. But like you said, beginning to see those builds be a little bit more fluid in how these teams treat it, depending on what their goals are, how aggressive they believe they can be, and so on and so forth. Speaking of aggression, Abaddon picked up by Sigma. That's a fun pickup whenever you talk about a Mirana. Was just going to say, I would be shocked if we didn't see an S4 Storm Spirit come out in that 4th position. This team from Alliance makes so much sense. It looks like, it's just well-rounded. They're going to be able to push effectively with Chen. They're going to have sustain out on the map also because of Chen. You now have a hard counter to the Lifestealer already picked up in the Bane, so that's one problem that's already taken care of, although Shadow Demon in his own right is very, very effective against Lifestealer. But now you have the Nake's Bomb as well. And yeah, I really like what Alliance has done with their lineup at Sigma, and they've kind of become known for this. They're showing us, it's not that it's super creative. A Mirana Shadow Demon combo isn't something that's certainly rare, but whenever you see it paired with a Beastmaster and with an Abaddon, they have a little bit of ambiguity in what their overall game plan is going to be. One thing I like a lot, though, in terms of how they match up against Bane, you have a lot of heroes, Shadow Demon with Disruption, Mirana with Sacred Arrow that's shot from distance, Beastmaster who is going to be looking to initiate from distance with Roar, etc. These are heroes that are not particularly susceptible to Fiend's Grip outside of just being caught out of position. So if Sigma remains positioned correctly, Bane's effect could be minimized.
Yeah, this is a lineup that is very, very much a Sigma lineup through and through. Pretty much, not many teams are really picking up the Abaddon. He was really thought about a lot when he was first introduced into Dota 2, reintroduced into the Dota pool, pretty much. And a lot of teams were really thinking about him, and especially with the rise of dual lanes coming up, Abaddon was always classically a very, very strong support for an off lane. So that kind of came with the rise of dual lanes. People were thinking a lot more about running dual lanes because of the change to off lanes and everything else. But since then, he's kind of fallen off, and this is very interesting. We're going to see a Riki picked up by Sigma, and I do think we're going to be seeing dual lanes. We're not actually going to be seeing a Shadow Demon Mirana combo, I don't think. The Shadow Demon is actually a really good setup for Riki Maru.
Yeah, and I love the Riki pickup for a number of reasons. In terms of being caught by Fiend's Grip, obviously, once Alliance gets things like Dust, they get a gem. He'll be very susceptible to that. That's fine. Storm Spirit will be a problem for him as well, just being able to, as soon as they drop a sentry, as soon as he's spotted, he will be a primary target in a lot of ways. Of course, Beastmaster's Roar going through Magic Immunity will make him another target they have to be very well aware of if they want to free Lifestealer up in these fights. But Riki, in terms of how he's going to match up with Lifestealer, because of Cloud, the miss percentage that comes with that, the immense amount of damage he can actually output on a lifestealer if he can get behind him, it's going to be difficult. The Lone Druid pickup for Alliance, though, I think this is key for them because now they're running a 2-core lineup with the Chin already out on the board and the range and initiation reach that they have with the Storm Spirit and Lifestealer. They're going to be able to pressure Sigma very early if Bulldog gets off to a good start. Now, good start doesn't necessarily mean that he's free farming in the beginning, but just so long as he can do what he's known to do, why that hero has become marquee for him, which is, okay, we can put him in an off lane, we can put him here, we can put him there, and then he's going to bounce back and just have a Radiance up, for example, at a good timing. This is a team that I think Sigma's lineup is going to be particularly susceptible to an early Radiance build, so they have to prioritize activity early. They need to make sure they slow Bulldog down as much as they possibly can. Load on the Lifestealer, that's an issue they have to worry about as well, but they don't want to be tucked up under their own towers. They don't want to lose map control.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Real quick, AC, if you could check your Dota TV sound. Sounds like you're not going through into Dota TV.
There we go. Flipped it back and forth a couple of times, and we'll hope that resolves the issue. Yep, I'm seeing the little cloud now on the side, and yeah, unfortunately, whenever you're in the pick band, you actually can't see the little chat bubble, so it's hard to tell. But.
Yeah, I would really love if Valve could change that, just because it's like, because sometimes it does break. Like, sometimes it just, like, it is on. It's just not actually working. We have no way in the drafting phase to know whether or not it's actually broken somehow or there's some sort of bug. So, but... we're back, and we have a little bit of pause, but I do agree with everything you were saying about Radiance here. This is a lineup that is very, very aggressive from Sigma, and it's now with the Lone Druid pickup, they don't have late game. Like the Lifestealer and Storm Spirit by themselves, you could argue, yeah, maybe Beastmaster, Riki, and the Mirana can fight up against that, but now with the Lone Druid last pick coming out from Alliance, that gives them a lot of really good late game, and which, again, concerns me because my biggest thing has always been, if you don't have the late game, you need some sort of initiation, you need some sort of push in order to end the game. Now, Sigma do have a really strong mid-game lineup, and they don't fall off very, very quickly at all. So that they do have plenty of time to actually end the game. So it's not that big of a concern. But Sigma do have to be trying to shut down this Lone Druid from getting too big, because there's definitely going to be a big problem. They've already countered the Lifestealer really, really well with pretty much every single hero. I mean, they've got solid lockdown in Beastmaster that goes through Rage. The Shadow Demon Riki combo is perfect against Lifestealer because he can't Rage instantly out of Disruption because the silence will already be there waiting for him from the cloud. And heroes like Abaddon and Mirana have just good ways of being able to deal with the Lifestealer. Abaddon obviously has his ultimate, so Lifestealer's not going to aggro onto him too much, and Mirana has that mobility that is so key in dealing with the Lifestealer. So he is going to get kited around. He is pretty heavily countered. So when you talk about the Lone Druid and how important Radiance or any sort of build on him is going to be, I 100% agree, because I feel that the Lifestealer was targeted pretty heavily in the drafting phase by Sigma.
Yeah, to me, it all comes down to map control. When you see a Rikimaru have the most success, and I've actually had the chance to cast a hero a few times. I mean, he's certainly a fairly rare pickup and becoming a slight bit more common. He did get a bit of a buff in the last patch and so on and so forth. But, whenever he's the most effective is whenever he can get out across the map. I mean, he needs farm. He needs to find his items. He needs to find his GPM and his experience gain, and that's all well and good. But he needs to also just be that unfortunate terror on the map where you have to constantly worry about vision, constantly worry about sentries and dust and an early gem pickup and that kind of a thing. So if they're able to tuck Sigma back under their own towers, they get a couple of big wins, put them behind in golden experience early, and then just begin to push towers off of a well-farmed Admiral Bulldog Lone Druid, that's going to be their easiest path to success, I do believe. But the lanes have taken shape, and we can see already Bucking Mad bouncing between bottom and now into mid. It is going to be a 2-1-2 with Chen in the jungle on the safe lane, excuse me, for Alliance. So I expect we could see a lot of movement. Actually, Bucking Mad already bailing out, leaving Mirana to go one-on-one against the Lone Druid. Now, this could be a little bit of a chancy maneuver. This is going to give Bulldog a very nice chance to get off to an excellent start one-on-one in this safe lane.
Yeah, this is something that Alliance had a really, really smart decision on their lanes. It's pretty much they knew that Lifestealer's countered. Oh, maybe. Hold on, we got some action at top.
Disruption at top, EGM, down to about half health. The damage just not there in full yet, unable to burst him down. Abaddon only level 1. Already has 1 point into Aphotic Shield, but really just no chance of using it there. They knew that Loda at best was going to be zoning and not really attacking. So a little bit of early aggression, but EGM able to make it back under the Tier 1, heal himself up. He'll be fine.
Yeah, they were so close to actually being able to get that disruption block. It's what you really aim to do when you have a couple melee heroes like this. Throw down the disruption and just surround that circle and hope that the illusions pop out. And with those 4 units clustered around one hero, you're able to get that block. And they unfortunately were unable to do so. And EGM also had that really good tango eat through some of those trees to make sure that he got a little regen, had a little bit more room to move. But they were so close to being able to pick up that first blood if they just had the block off. But going back to this, Alliance do the really smart thing. They recognize the fact they need to be able to prioritize the Lone Druid farm, and they also know that they're dealing with dual lanes from Sigma, but if they run the dual lane of Lifestealer and Bane up against the Riki, it's going to shut him down hard enough because of that Bane and Feeble coming into play, and Lifestealer's just kind of natural aggression in the lane. So they're going to try and shut down Riki, which forces Aban to go top, and now they have this tri-lane, which again, like you said, leaves Lone Druid this free lane against Miguel, where he has a big damage over this Mirana. You can already see he's harassing Miguel out as much as possible with this Spirit Bear because he picked up an early Orb of Venom, and he has a big lead on damage when it comes to CS as well.
We see the Lifestealer. And this is a question that you always have to wonder with Loda. Loda is not shy about grabbing a Midas in just about any situation. He's already picked up Brown Boots, could always transition and decide to start saving for a Midas. Now, usually when you see this, though, he'll go Phase Boots. This just isn't a game where I feel like Loda really is going to benefit a ton from an early Midas pickup, just because I think Sigma, as we've talked about and as you pointed out so very clearly, is really up against the gun here. They're up against a very superior late game team, and they can't afford to have this game go much past 30-35 minutes. So Loda instead going most likely for a phase build. We'll see what he wants to tack on with it, if it's going to be an armlet. I actually would really like a phase armlet approach from him. Drums I don't feel like are even going to be that necessary. It's going to be all about, again, the Lone Druid. And speaking of Lone Druid, this is just a terrifying situation to be in, even under the best of circumstances. With Admiral Bulldog leading CS, 22 atop the board now. Theta trading even with S4 in mid, 22-20 right now. But yeah, I feel like Alliance is going to be very, very happy with the way this early game is treating them.
Yeah, notice the build coming up from Theta. He's actually prioritizing Call of the Wild because of that recent change. So he's actually, because of the fact you're actually going to be able to have 2 boars up at once and 2 hawks up at once, some people are actually considering this a bit of a nerf to the vision from Beastmaster, because your hawk doesn't survive as long, and you have to actually use that second hawk to put it in position ahead of time. But the extra boar is definitely a big advantage that Beastmaster is going to gain in the mid game, because it's not a unit that's normally talked about a whole lot, but it is very, very good at being able to harass and keep up pressure on the enemy team. And look what they're doing now. Loda is being left alone in this lane because they just force Bane back, but he's fine. Like, he has nothing to really be scared of until the Shadow Demon comes in, and Paz is now at bottom. So they're actually going to try and get that Shadow Demon arrow combo because they want to be able to shut down Lone Druid, but then again leaves Loda open. It's all because of the laning phase that Alliance chose. They dodged the dual lanes by running aggressive like this, and it's paying out in just huge numbers for them.
And right now, this is there's really not even a whole lot they can do outside of overcommitting to this bottom lane to slow the Lone Druid down. He's already found his level 6, and with the Chen in the jungle, Chen's actually doing fairly well in levels 2, coming up on level 4 just 5 minutes in. But with knowing that Chen's lurking about in the jungle, and with the Lone Druid to level 6 now, the threat of one route completely derailing, like say if they just want to send the Shadow Demon down there or something to try and put some pressure on, that can turn badly so unbelievably quickly that it's kind of an all or nothing situation they find themselves in at the moment. Talking about mid momentarily, as you said, Theta on the Beastmaster, I really like a mid Beastmaster. I feel like it's due for a bit of a comeback. He's especially effective against any Magic community-based hero, most especially the Lifestealer, as mentioned, and has a lot of flexibility in what you can do with him in terms of builds. You can go with a Necro Book if you want to go with a push lineup. You can go with a Blink Dagger or Force Staff if you really have to have that jump and initiation, or more importantly, that counter initiation. Theta on this Beastmaster is going to be so important in counter-initiating S4 whenever he does ball lightning in. So he's very tanky, generally very survivable, makes everyone on his team better because of his aura, not to mention the vision, as you just talked about. I feel like the hero was buffed. Yeah, you can say the vision's a little more difficult, so on and so forth. But for the most part, the hero, I feel like it actually has a very solid place back here in mid. And I think Sigma's going to begin to bounce him around once he finds out. once he finds his level 6. Here at bottom, we're going to see Ake spotted out by Miggle, and that's going to be our first blood. And Miggle finding a free one there, that's, that doesn't necessarily solve the big problem in that bottom lane, but it's certainly a step in the right direction and gets Miggle in a much better position.
Yeah, I mean, it gets him a little bit closer to those phase boots, which are so necessary for Mirana in the laning phase because you kind of you don't have a whole lot of damage, but you can see Miguel. That was a blind arrow, by the way. That was just a beautiful arrow that he threw down. I don't believe the invis from Fada. Maybe it spied it. Maybe we just missed Fada's invis being able to spy out the Chen, but either way, that was just a really good play by Miguel. Finds it out with the arrow, and from there, it's just a short follow-up with Starstorm. But he's going to go again on middle.
S4 roared. There's the arrow coming out of the woodwork, and S4 caught out and well executed. And again, that's going to be Fada's job. I mean, in terms of prioritizing targets, yes, Loda is a good one for him, just depending on who's the bigger threat, though. And for the early stage of this game, it's going to be all about S4 while Loda continues to find his farm. So a very, very good kill there on mid. Did not prevent him from finding his level 6. In fact, he's almost level 8 now, as are both heroes. But still, just being able to derail a Storm Spirit a little bit, disjoint what is usually going to be that Orchid into BKB build, just buys you time to get this Riki into shape. And speaking of, Ricky's not level 6 yet. He's got his Orb of Venom, he's got his Treads, but he's got some ground to make up. Sitting in the middle of the pack in terms of CS, he is on par with Loda, roughly 22 to 26. And to tell you the truth, that's pretty damn impressive. He's been facing Enfeeble harassment all freaking lane so far, and he still managed to keep on par in terms of CS. Well played there by Paris. Yeah,
it's something that he's had to deal with a lot of harassment, not just in that Enfeeble, but also just occasionally Lifestealer going forward and actually trying to use that open wounds to get aggressive on this Riki. So Paris is doing a really good job so far. Saksha is a proven carry player that has a lot of experience. So I'm interested to see how they're going to run this in the mid game. Now, something that they have right now is oh, okay. I don't know if Bulldog's serious. All right. But,
Bulldog is troll. Bulldog has become troll. The biggest freaking troll, man.
Well, did you see him earlier, though? In the lobby, he was like, guys, get in your actual names.
Jeez, gosh.
Jeez, but, what a professional that guy is.
Yeah, Bulldog's good people. He's good people.
Yeah. But what I would really like about Sigma is with this mid Beastmaster, not only is it good counter to Lifestealer, but the vision that they're granted is really, really important from this Hawk. Like situations like what happened in this bottom lane with the Chen First Blood. Being able to use that Hawk to be able to see those kind of advances, Alliance moving around the map, and vision is so important versus a Storm Spirit and that Lifestealer combo as well. I mean, you're going to see some Nakes bombing, so you want to be able to see it ahead of time. So they've got some really good ganking heroes, and mixed in with the vision that Sigma is going to have all game long, even if their wards get countered, you still have that advantage with your Hawk, that I see Sigma being able to just constantly pick off Alliance over and over and over again. The question is, can they pretty much shut down Alliance enough with all those continual pick-offs and snowball heavily enough to be able to counteract what is Bulldog's free farm right now?
Yeah, and speaking of Bulldog's free farm, we see he's already got a Glove of Haste up on the Bear. Plus phase boots. He's off to a good enough start. He's confident to go Midas in this situation, and I think that speaks volumes. He's sitting atop, not just in CS, but whenever you talk about early lane CS, that can be a little deceptive sometimes, depending on how much of it's lane creeps, how much of it's jungle creeps, and so on and so forth. But he's definitely ahead in GPM. 377 GPM for right now, 350 roughly for S4 out of mid, and then a grab bag underneath that. Beta's doing quite well, keeping right on pace in this mid lane, and it's roughly even, or at least it was, for Riki and Lifestealer. Loaded now a little bit higher in GPM, though we are still very early on in this game. But a 2-0 advantage right now for Sigma. So, I mean, they're not in terrible shape. It has been another quiet early game, but a 1,500 gold lead already in play at this moment, just for Alliance without a single tower down. So whenever you're talking about that kind of gold lead, this is nothing but efficiency lead at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all comes down to the laning decision coming out from Alliance. It's just what pretty much set them up for success. In the beginning, looking at it, dual lanes, very, very strong, and I was really, really concerned for Alliance, but all because they decided to run aggressive. But at bottom, we actually have S4 trying to jump in with haste.
Looking for that first shot route. Admiral Bulldog, for once, doesn't find that first hit route. Seems like the guy he has a route button. They patched his Lone Druid and only his, but Mirana's Moonlight Shadow getting the job done. We saw Loda was actually forced to rage and and back all the way to his tower. So the aggressive potential of Sigma is already showing itself, although at this point, Alliance in this bottom lane, again, this is kind of what I worried about for Sigma and made mention of it. We even see Miggle forced back now, having the Aphotic Shield popped. They just can't send one hero down here and hope to do anything the Lone Druid with Ake in the jungle. They have to commit more personnel, but of course if they do that, they're freeing up Loda, they're freeing up S4. So they've got some hard decisions to make, but they need to make a decision soon. This game is getting a little bit out of hand. Again, 2,000 gold lead at this point for Alliance, and they're behind in kills and gave up First Blood. That's a huge efficiency lead. This laning phase is not a status quo they want to maintain.
Yeah, what Sigma are really lacking right now is the fact that they picked up the Abaddon, they picked up the Shadow Demon, and those heroes were supposed to give them safety in lanes, but it might be just a little bit too much safety. Like, they're not actually being able to be aggressive enough to find, extra bit of farm. Like, if they had something like a Crystal Maiden, for example, they'd actually be able to counter the jungle of Chen. But right now, Ake is playing a huge part of being able to get that gigantic golden experience lead on Alliance right now. And Sigma are trying to make up for that by trying to gank heavily. Like, you already see Paris, he hits level 6 and immediately moves to middle, but S4 knew exactly what was going to happen. All it takes is him getting range of Beastmaster. He was going to get roared, and he knew either an arrow was going to come in or the Rikimaru was going to be able to throw down that smoke, and they would just easily clean up Storm Spirit since he's such a squishy hero when he's disabled like that. So S4 is playing very, very safe right now. He learned his lesson from the first time he got ganked from that Beastmaster ultimate. He's going to be playing really, really passive in lane for the rest of the time.
We can see once again, rotating 2 back to top. They, as you mentioned, they try to gank in mid. We see that Phaeton has picked up a Blink Dagger, so that's going to give them a bit more of an opportunity here, but they're just losing so much ground every minute that goes by. I mean, they brought 3 heroes to mid, left Loda alone, and now look at his CS compared to Ricky's, 46 to 33. Ricky beginning to fall behind in that regard. Loda's level 7.5. Ricky, I'm not even sure where he is at this point. He's in mid and just now hit level 7. There's the Midas stun on Druid. Here we go. Phaeton. This is a big time for them. They need to make this play. Roar on the Bulldog. They're going to try to follow it with an arrow. There's the Starfall. And he got a root, though, and he's just going to turn around and go to work. Yep, and that's the problem you have. The reaction was there. Loda's there. Here comes the Storm Spirit. S4 spent every bit of his mana trying to catch a target out. But at the very least, they have forced the reaction out of Alliance, and now with Paris rotating through on the Ricky, going to look to get a pick off Loda. Don't know that's the target he wants to go on, and yeah, he's just going to cruise on by, give him a slap on the ass on his way back to his teammates. But Bulldog, definitely, again, the target of choice. They don't have any vision right now, no dust, and they're going to miss with the arrow. The cloud went down. Disruption onto Loda. Now they're going to reinitiate, and Pox in trouble. Will be brought down very quickly. Behind that, Miggle forced to run, and this early game is turning into a true disaster at the moment for Sigma. We even see, yeah, just look at Ricky doing very little damage. He just shrugged it off. The bear did not get a root once again, and Miggle going to spin his face, but they're just going to chase it. Looking for a root. Will he find it? Nope. Going to be resummoned back. But yeah, they forced the reaction, but in exchange, they gave up a free kill, and once again, Bulldog survives.
Yeah, the problem is these heroes are just too tanky for them to be able to deal with. Pre-level 6, Lone Druid is actually a very squishy target versus any of this combo. Shadow Demon Riki is actually a really powerful combo against that. But once he hits that level 6, he's so tanky that you honestly can't deal with him. Middle, they're actually going to go on S4.
Yep, this is a good pick for them if they can secure it. The cloud goes down in good time. Lifestealer was there. Now he's going to re-engage, try to catch Ricky. Great Fiend's Grip on EGM, rotating and teleporting into the trees. Honestly, that's a win for Alliance. I mean, being able to bring down the Storm is fine, but when you give up Ricky, a hero who has to snowball, who does not play well from behind whatsoever, in exchange for an S4 Storm Spirit who's already off to a fairly good start, and number 2 on the CS chart, that's definitely a win for Alliance.
Yeah, Alliance are doing such a good job playing defensively right now. And the problem with this is that Sigma are depending so heavily on these pickoffs that as long as Alliance actually stay near these Tier 1 towers, they play passively, they're going to be fine because they're never going to lose map control via pushes. Like, Sigma don't have that power. They have the ability to pick off and then try and push in, but that's only with the numbers advantage. So what Sigma have to do, they have to find the pickoffs, but Alliance realized that, and they're just playing it really, really passively, and Sigma are just wasting so much time trying to find those pickoffs that they have to have, that they end up falling behind more and more in golden experience, which means those pickoffs that they do find are getting harder and harder to get. You've got two different pretty tanky heroes, and then Chen and Bane are both very defensive supports as well, that both have played their part in being able to save a hero once or twice.
Bucking Mad and Feta under cover of smoke make this a 5-man team down at bottom. They need a tower. They cannot afford to lose too much here. If they can get a pick, that's great. They really need this tower. The rest of Alliance, yeah, they're just going to bail. And Ake has a TP of his own, will not be found. He's going to make it out. They're just going to trade tier 1s, and this is just classic Alliance play. Rotating your two big pushers here to mid. And just taking a run at it. Now they're forcing a reaction out of Sigma. Sigma, basically what we said during the draft as soon as we saw these lineups come together, is Sigma could not afford to be out of control of the game. They needed to control the pace of the game. They needed to control the flow of the game. And already they're being forced to react. And they're not even really able to push as well as Alliance can. Alliance has yet to pop their glyph. And they will just let it drop for free. In the meantime, the tier 1 mid does still stand. I'm a little surprised Alliance didn't commit more heavily to that. Instead, though, rotating up to top, and now they might have a chance to make a run at Bucking Mad. But with Moonlight Shadow there, it could get complicated. Here comes S4. He's going to make a run in. Paris is going to land. S4 has that haste rune up. We'll be able to scurry to safety. Paris going to be careful. He just walked right into that. Sentry goes down. Here comes Bulldog. The aphotic shield, enough to ward him out. Nice roar, catching Bulldog. Feta catching him in the back. If they can get him here, it'd be a big win. Shem blows the heel. Miggle doesn't have the damage. Is going in. Nope, never mind. The aphotic shield actually enough to bring him down, so they get at least one. EGM Nightmares himself behind that, Bucking Mad, scurrying away from S4. They do manage to get a return kill as Loda erupts out following the infest. It's 1 for 1 so far, and Loda picking up his Yasha will be a Phage Drums Yasha build, and Loda might get caught here. Axe is up in 3 seconds. Yep, they do manage to get him. Abaddon there to clean it up with the help of aphotic shield. And Sigma getting a very big win, but now they need to translate it. They got a free tier 1, didn't cost them anything. Let's see if they want to push on through here.
Yeah, meanwhile, Ake, he's not really a hero that can adjust from going bottom all the way to that top lane. So instead, he does the smart thing. He just goes middle, pushes in, and now he's threatening a tier 2. They know they can't get much out of this, and that's always been the problem of Chen, is he's so stationary as a support that you really have to read the game so well to actually constantly be in a good position to help your team. But still, I mean, he threw down that ultimate. It helped Alliance a little bit, kept heroes alive for a little bit longer. It just comes down to the fact that Abaddon right now is a pretty big force on a lot of these early skirmishes. That heal and the aphotic shield play such a big turnaround, especially for when situations like Paris getting caught by the dust, all of a sudden you throw down that shield, and not only is he no longer disabled, he's no longer dusted up either. But they're going to go again.
And we can see here in mid, Feta, Miggle. Feta already under cover of an invis. Alliance hanging up, and here at top, Loda able to make it away. Looks like he was engaged upon. But, yep, there's another roar on S4 in mid. Sacred Arrow's on the mark, and they're making it work for him. EGM does get off the sleep. And the Fiend's Grip under his own tower. Miggle does not have a Sacred Arrow, only so much he can do. Just do what damage you can. Brain Sap, not enough to clean him up. EGM does heal himself up, though. Here comes Ake, has a bunch of creeps in tow, but not quick enough to catch up with Miggle, who phases his way to safety. So now we're going to see him stomped following a Ned, but he does have help behind him. The Axe is doing a bit of damage and forcing Alliance back. In the meantime, Paris has been engaged at top, but will be able to make it away safely as Loda has no detection on him and no sentries around. So a trade here and there. Sigma does get another good kill under their belt, make it 3-6. But the problem is, and this is, we talk about this as casters all the time, but it's really being exemplified right now. Whenever you look at the map, in terms of tower lead, it's actually dead even. But when you look at the gold, Alliance's efficiency, what they were able to get out of their early laning phase, and what they're able to do now, translated to the ability to dodge fights, to trade even, etc. They're up to 5,000 gold lead as we approach the 18-minute mark.
Yeah, and it looks like Alliance are going to go for the kill at top as well.
Up at top, Loda trying to catch up with him. They got him with the dust. Brain Sap's there. Another kill. No. Nice disruption from Poss. Let's see if it's enough to buy time. And Paris will not be able to make it away as S4 is there to clean it up. Now the roar on the EGM, so they do manage to trade. Loda, though, thinking about re-engaging. There's the aphotic shield, though, purging off the open wounds. And Bucking Mad showing the strength of that hero. Loda will go ahead and rage, and he got way too far forward. Might have forgotten there was a chin there as well as S4. The open wounds are there, and that'll be another kill going the way of Alliance. There's not enough real damage here. Miggle shot the Sacred Arrow, still on cooldown at the moment. Might be able to track down S4 or Loda if they really commit themselves, but nope, they will connect with the Sacred Arrow. Miggle, though, needs help from the Abaddon to make his way out. Nice stomp following the net, catching out Miggle. Don't have the damage, though, as Miss Coil heals him back up. Loda rages his way back to safety, still eating a little bit of right-click damage. But now with EGM teleporting in, EGM does have a Fiend's Grip ready to go if he wants to. Problem, though, Admiral Bulldog said, yeah, that Tier 2 tower, that's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's just a simple, like, they focused so long in this on this team fight, they didn't even come out on top of the team fight. It's the worst part. Sigma forced this kind of fight, and it was going on 5v4 for a lot of times, and Lone Druid just cleaning up a lot of the map. And again, Alliance taking more and more gold out of this map that Sigma are just not finding in their hero kills. They just don't have enough. Alliance won the laning phase, and now they have their basic stat items up high enough that they can easily just fight despite the disadvantage of Sigma pretty much countering a lot of their heroes. But it all comes back down to Rikimaru. Like, Riki right now has Treads, Orb of Venom, and that's it. Like, that is no damage on a Riki. You expect this here, especially with the buff he received in the past, now 1.25 damage up on agility backstab. You expect him to be hitting a lot harder, but these are very tanky heroes, and he doesn't have the farm. He doesn't have any extra agility to talk about, so he's just not really bursting down heroes fast enough.
Yeah. As you said, picking up the Bracer, no agility build. His damage right now pretty damn abysmal, especially against targets like Loda, who already have an Ogre Club to go with a set of drums, so they're beginning to get much bigger HP pools. You talk about the way he's going to try to match up with the Lone Druid. Not very effective. But speaking of the Lone Druid, I really like the adjustment Bulldog made. I mean, whenever you talk about early push or wanting to get an early item that can just swing a fight against a team composition like this, like Sigma is drafted, you know, everyone assumes Radiance, as did we. But we see he's actually gotten the Maelstrom. This means he's going to be able to start coming to fights a little bit earlier. He's going to be able to push a little bit faster when Sigma has to commit. And that's something maybe we haven't really talked enough about. Whenever you look at what's at this phase of the game, now past 20 minutes, Sigma can't just rely on 1- and 2-man gank squads. It's not going to work when they've already fallen this far behind. They're now in a position where they have to 5-man. So Bulldog has the option of saying, well, my team can hold, they can rat, they can dodge, whatever. Well, I'll just go solo push a lane like we saw him do and take out the tier 2 mid. Or I can show up to fight and I can actually contribute a lot more, even though I don't have the 3,800 gold for a relic quite as quickly.
Yeah, it's something that pretty much I've always kind of described Maelstrom as the poor man's Battle Fury, and that it's actually more combat effective because of the lightning, but they're going to go on mid, actually.
Roar on the Bulldog. Here comes S4 counter-initiating. Miggle caught out, and he will pop Moonlight Shadow. Bulldog's still up and fighting at the moment. Can they track him down? Riki diving him hard. Let's see if he'll pay the price. He very well may. And do they have the damage? It's close. Yeah, they should be able to get him by the time all's said and done, and they do. So they end up trading 2 for 1, and even though it's a very high-value kill on Bulldog, they end up giving away 2 high-value kills of their own in the Riki and the Mirana. So 9-7, Sigma maintains the kill lead, but once again, these trades just favoring Alliance. And yeah, over the last 4 or 5 minutes alone, Alliance is now built just about a 3,000 gold lead. They're on their way to a 5-digit lead. And as we've talked about, hang on, EGM actually might find another kill. And as he's able to Fiend's Grip, bucking mad. And Borrowed Time's popped. He's going to Nightmare him while Borrowed Time expires. So the Aphotic Shield not going to be enough. S4 actually finds himself a kill elsewhere. Looks like he was able to jump upon Phaetos Beastmaster. And yeah, I think it's safe to say, my friend, the wheels have officially come off the wagon. Now a 10,000 gold lead for Alliance. And honestly, I don't know that we're super far from a GG.
Yeah, honestly, there's not much progression in this strategy now from Sigma. Once they're this far behind, Rikimaru is not a hero who plays from behind at all. He needs to be able to be way out ahead and be getting that extra gold from constant hero kills, because he's not a hero who just sits back and farms in lane. And he's not going to really be able to make a big comeback. Nice deny, though, by Paris. Sitting there, Invis just waiting for that last hit. Well done, but it's not going to add much for Sigma.
Well, let's put it this way. When you're having to deny your tier 3s at 22 minutes, yeah, it's a well done, but it's a very qualified well done. And Alliance just taking the tier 3, not going to overcommit, playing very safe and very patient. They actually focus the ranged racks instead of the melee racks, so that damage is permanent. But check that. Fake back as they do lock and load. S4 with a passenger, follow Ake. As spotted out Posse, here we go, jumping right on top of him, and there used to be a hero there. He's now a puddle of ketchup. Bucking Mad next on the list. Here comes the arrow, though. That's going to catch S4. Paris able to blink strike his way to safety. Bud Miggle caught by that root. Aphotic Shield buys some time. Don't think it'll buy him much else. Bucking Mad next on the list. That's 3 down. This is going to be a set of free racks. And, yeah, the only thing that... Oh, S4 will be roared, actually. No, Nightmare. Beautiful play by EGM, and turning it right around as Fata becomes the hat trick for S4, dropping following a couple of excellent plays by EGM. That's a full 5-man wipe. That's a GG as we watch the racks fall. So, less than 24 minutes, my friend. I'll tell you what, maybe Alliance... I don't know that they needed a vacation, but it looks like it might have done them some good.
Yeah, they're looking in very, very good form, especially against a very unique strategy like this. Sigma, they tried something, and I think it kind of fell apart. Like, again, that last pick of Lone Druid just changed everything so dramatically, because then it allowed them to be able to prioritize a hero, a carry hero, other than Lifestealer. And that was so important because Lifestealer and Storm Spirit were both pretty heavily countered by those really good disables coming out from Sigma. They had all the strong initiations to be able to counter both of those cores, but then came in the Admiral Bulldog, Lone Druid, and what do you do about that? It's just, they didn't have the lane set up to be able to deal with it. They didn't have the ganking power. And Alliance played it perfectly. They didn't split up a whole lot. They stay grouped up as a 4-man core while Lone Druid was split pushing. They just stayed really, really controlled and passive and didn't get too crazy, and that's all it took. Sigma just couldn't find the openings they needed against some of these tanky heroes mixed in with very defensive supports, and they just ended up pretty much falling apart just through team fight after team fight. So
yeah, this is the kind of game where you have to look at it. It's not that Sigma's draft was bad. It was creative. It certainly had its pitfalls. I mean, you have a Riki, you just can't afford to have a Riki get behind. He will never, ever catch up against a competently played lineup with 1 or 2 solid cores, especially 1 or 2 traditionally tough to bring down cores once a Lone Druid hits 6, et cetera, et cetera. But this comes down to drafting. I mean, when you look at the way the lanes worked out, Alliance did not make any adjustments. They knew what they were going to be up against. They knew they read Sigma completely, and basically Sigma had no choice but to do what they did. I mean, they tried to prioritize the Riki lane knowing he simply couldn't fall behind, but the pressure was there sufficiently enough that he still did fall behind. In the meantime, they're giving up free farm to the Lone Druid. They don't want to commit the entire team earlier than they can or earlier than they should to try and bring him down. But with Ake in the jungle, there's just simply no safe way to pressure that lane without giving up a whole lot of map control elsewhere and giving free farm to Loda and S4. Again, this is a simple, I shouldn't say a simple outdraft. It's a very creative outdraft. That doesn't mean Sigma's lineup was bad. It just means Alliance just read it completely, read it like a book and threw it away.
Yeah, and that's going to be it for Game 1, guys. Reminder, we are going to be doing just like yesterday and just like the day before with Toby. We are going to be giving away some rares courtesy of Dota 2 Lounge. So, same thing as yesterday. We're going to go ahead and give one away on Ayesee's Twitter, one away on my own Twitter, and then we're going to give away a third one in the middle of Game 2. So, as we transition from the draft into the actual game, we start getting into the laning phase of Game 2, we will give away another 10 rares, and that's all you have to do is go to dota2lounge.com/giveaway, and you just have to wait, hear the code, and go ahead and put it in real quick. If you're the first one, you're going to have 10 free rares. So we're going to give away Ayesee's Twitter first, Ayesee at Ayesee, Ayesee. Go ahead and follow him, and he'll put up the code while we're getting into Game 2. So don't go anywhere, guys. Short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Game 2 of Alliance versus Sigma.